Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thank you so much for dropping by. And to anyone who's new, this is a channel and going to be a broadcast. It's currently a live broadcast. You may be watching a recording of it that's talking about what I am utterly convinced are the actual teachings of that guy, of Jesus. So, I'd like to start off with a really interesting sharing. So very briefly, someone shared, they watched one of my videos and they said, "Oh, so this teaching is da 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 da." I said, "Well, that's close, but that's not quite what I believe Jesus Christ taught, or Bruno Gröning, who really clarified what Jesus taught. That's what this channel is about." I said, "Well, that's not quite." And this person said, "Well, is it okay if, is it okay for me to receive the divine healing energy, even if I believe this particular thing, which maybe isn't exactly in alignment with what Bruno Gröning taught or what Jesus taught?" And so my response is from the deepest place in my heart, and this is one of the most important things that Bruno Gröning clarified about what Jesus taught, is this: God is goodness and love and order, and is like a loving parent. Not just is like, is a loving parent. And God sends forth this energy, which is written that Christ called the living waters, or the water of life. Bruno Gröning called it the divine stream, or the in German, he called it Heilstrom, and it's often translated as healing stream, but I don't think that's the most accurate translation. I think the divine energy, or the energy of God that saves. You can call it the healing stream, but we have to keep in mind what Bruno Gröning meant by healing, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Bruno Gröning said, in essence, that God sends this energy out to everyone, regardless of nationality, of race, and even of religion. Bruno Gröning went so far as to say, it doesn't matter how you find God, just that you find God. The reason why this part of Bruno's teaching is so near and dear to my heart is because the teaching of Christ, and I would argue that this shows up in other ways in other religions, has gotten distorted into what's become most important is a set of mental ideas, a belief system. Well, I believe this, I believe that. And this person wasn't saying that at all, but this highlights, I believe this, and that's what's most important, that I have the right idea, the right information in my head. Well, when I look at the record of what we have of what Christ taught, and when I look at what Bruno Gröning taught, clarifying Christ's teaching, that's just not true at all. Bruno Gröning said man needs to be connected to God. God wanted no more. This is the true divine teaching, the experience of connection, the experience of being joined in communion with God. That's what I consider to be the absolute essence of what Christ taught. And there's all these things that have been added on it. I need to believe this. I need to go to church on this day. I need to do this ritual. I need to da-da-da. All those things, going to church, having a certain belief, those things can be helpful. I'm not criticizing that. What I'm saying is, what's the real thing that Jesus taught? My understanding is it's to be in connection and communion with God, and then to be guided by God. The way to do that, and part of the prerequisite for all that, is having faith or trust in God. Or as Bruno Gröning said, being willing to take up that faith or trust. So to this person, but I also want to say, kind of in this funny way, I want to say to all the people of the world. I'm laughing because my videos tend to get about maybe 30, maybe 40 views. So to all the people of the world, all 30 or 40 of you who will drop by this video, it's my deepest conviction that this guy, Jesus Christ, what he taught is that God is love. And that love extends itself. The love that God is extends itself in an energy that we can all take in, an energy that can help in every aspect of our lives. You can call it a force or a power. I'm not so concerned with the word, but a something that's helpful, that God is available to help, but we do have to take it in. So here's a very simple way to do it. And this was taught by Bruno Gröning, and I'm convinced it was taught by Jesus, and it just got mostly left out of the written records of what he taught. Please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards. Back in an upright position, not leaning against your chair if possible. If you need to, that's okay. Please close your eyes and now hand over every fear, every worry, every situation about which you feel stressed. And now please hand over any illnesses, any just the idea of illness. Please separate yourself from it. And then give your full attention to your healing. And then ask to receive this energy, this force, this power, and observe your body. Trusting that every sensation is now a step towards your recovery. Noticing what you feel. Having the intention to take this energy in. observing the body. If any negative thoughts arise, handing them over. So I'm going to share a little bit. And please, to anyone who's new, please continue to do this practice of observing your body, even while I talk. Even while I talk or read, it's possible to take this energy in under any and every circumstance. Hmm. So I started off today by sharing, that I'm having a little informal dialogue with someone about different beliefs or views, and I completely honor that person's views. And what the dialogue reminds me of is that what's most important, in my view, and according to the teachings of Bruno, and in my personal view, even before I found Bruno Gröning and he clarified it for me, is the essence of being, in this beautiful German word Bruno Gröning used, Verbindung. He would say, to Verbindung, that Verbindung to God, that is everything. So what does Verbindung mean? Well, it's easy to translate it as connection, but it's a very intimate connection. To be linked, to be joined, to be in communion. A state of union, to be joined. Join is a very interesting thing. It's two things come together, and then there's some way in which they become one. Not that the individual parts are lost. Bruno Gröning didn't, um, to my knowledge, didn't really clarify on that point, but that there's a deep, deep joining. If I'm understanding the word correctly, it's this sense of when two things come together and are very intimately, another translation of it is co-joined. That might be the most accurate translation. But we don't have Bruno here, but this is the second thing, is then from that place of Verbindung, communion, connection, link, then we get to not get to, need to come to our own understanding. Don't take my word for it, and don't even take Bruno's words for it. What's really true? What's the truth? Bruno Grenning said, to be Verbindung to God. That is everything. So we need to test everything, discern. First of all, is Bruno Grenning correct? And then from there, what exactly did he mean by Verbindung? To be linked, conjoined. So let's ask and not try and figure it out. Let's let it be revealed to us. Let's let this feeling we have reveal the truth to us. Because that's actually what Bruno Grenning said. He said, if you observe your body, the truth will reveal itself inside of you. And so, in essence, this person said, I made a video and this person said, oh, it sounds like Bruno Grenning meant this. And my response was, well, that's close, but I don't think that's quite what Bruno Grenning meant. And then I clarified my understanding. And that's okay. People have dialogues and discussions. And that's beautiful. And then let's not just with that discussion, but with our own, we each have our own beliefs and our own ideas and me too. And then let's look a little deeper than that through the practice of observing our body, having the intention to literally take in the energy or power of God and see if we can find, and this includes me. I hope it's not clear. I'm not like pointing my finger at the person who brought up who I had the dialogue with. I love that dialogue. Thank you. It's got me into such a deep place of wanting to find the depth, wanting to have the experiential truth, the experiential knowing. So let's really listen deeply inside ourselves. And in essence, let's let this feeling we have, that I have, and I know many people have when doing this practice, let's let that feeling speak. Doesn't mean it's necessarily we're going to hear words, we might. But what if that feeling, that divine experience, what if that's the truth? Let's find out. Observing the body, having the intention to take this energy in. I often find that when I do this practice, then I do have inspired ideas. Like I just got one. There's a sort of a challenging life situation, and just through observing my body, just like, oh, that's what I need to do. And again, we're observing the body with the intention. This practice, anyway, is observing the body with the intention of taking in the divine force. this is a path to God. And so much of how I've approached God, and I think so many people approach God, is through ideas, through books they've read, through things they've heard people say. And even, in my case, I'm very passionate about what Bruno Guernin said. You may have noticed. But what if um, the true teaching is what we feel in our hearts and souls? What if the true teaching is what we feel when we look at nature, and that everything else is nothing more than pointing us to that direct experience? What would you say? And feel free to type it in. I'm going to ask a question. Feel free to type in your answer if you'd like. It's optional. But what if for a moment we all just put aside all our ideas about God and we just spoke about what if God is revealing him, her, itself through what we feel when we tune in? What if that's like the true scripture? If we just spoke from that, I might say something like, wow, God is goodness and loving, peaceful, happiness. God is wonderful beyond words. God is graceful, meaning I feel like I'm being just given this vast gift. God is a little mysterious, at least in terms of from my mind's point of view. It's hard to put into words, but it's yet simultaneously very clear. This good, good feeling. When speaking of the divine energy, when speaking of the divine energy, this energy we're taking in, Bruno used the German word Heilstrom. It's actually not a German word. He combined two German words. And the word Heil, it means complete and whole and uninjured, sound, safe, intact. But that sense of wholeness and safety, forever loving everything, it feels like being completely at home. Thank you. That speaks to my experience. Something wonderfully good, like a picnic on a summer day where the temperature's just right. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it just feels like the day has been happening forever, just like eternity. Just like the day is just going to keep continuing, and everything's going to be wonderful forever. That's what it feels like to me. Now, it doesn't feel right or helpful to me to then say, okay, for me personally, maybe there's someone out there who's like, okay, I don't need any more spiritual ideas. This is enough, this one thing. And personally, I mean, maybe if I were to be a monk or nun, that everything I've just said today, that would be enough. But that's not my current plan. um, so then the question is, then I want to bring in some of Bruno's teachings, then how to navigate life. Because okay, it's unspeakably wonderful and forever loving everything said it so well. It feels like being completely at home. And then how to navigate life. And here's where I feel this is one of the reasons I love Bruno Green's teachings because he keeps it very simple, but he talks about things like faith and watching your thoughts, and the awareness of good and evil. That even in this very, very wonderful place, that we, while in a body on the earth, there's a need to be mindful that evil is all around us. And unless we're pure, perfect beings, we're still in the process of even letting go of evil that we've taken into our own bodies. So I don't know if Bruno ever quite used this phrase, but I think he did actually. I think I remember recently reading it. I think I think he said, in essence, I give you the rules of the game of life so that you can become masters of life. I'll take a look for that. And I like to get Bruno's words. I like to be very exact because I believe Bruno Gröning was being very exact because he did. I'm just going to find this. Let's continue tuning in. Yes, I give you the rules of the game of life so that you can master life. So the thing is rules are very specific, and in some ways they're a little strict. So my sense is that Bruno Gröning gave us the exact um, operating parameters, like how life functions, so that we can succeed at life. And by succeed, I mean being connected to God and then being happy, healthy, and harmonious. So maybe one way to look at Bruno Gröning's teaching is he helps us refine the connection to God, and then helps us navigate life. And one of the fundamental rules he gave us was this attitude of humility we need to have before God. He went so far as to say, without our God, we humans are nothing. We are nothing at all. He said, if you adopt the thought, I want to be healthy, then ask God. for help. Man alone is too weak to help himself. That requires a lot of humility. So let's humbly approach the Supreme Being, that which made us, and ask for help like little children. I believe that's a huge part of what Bruno called the great reversal, the great turnaround, is taking on this attitude that without God, we human beings are nothing. How humble does Bruno call us to be? So there's the bold declaration without God, we're nothing. But how about this? He says, Bruno said, if you adopt the thought, I want to be healthy, then ask God, the Supreme Being, for help. Man alone is too weak to help himself. We can't even be healthy without God. Now, of course, it's possible to go to the doctor and get a medicine that suppresses the symptoms or maybe even cures something. But my understanding of what Bruno taught is that that actually isn't a healing. That the evil, the disorder, the disharmony that caused that particular illness, that hasn't been treated, and it'll just show up in another way. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. Thanks for ever loving everything, for saying hello and your emoji hug. And thank you for your beautiful sharing. Welcome, Gerald. Happy you're here, Rachel. Hey, Germana. I'm very grateful to each one of you. I don't know that Bruno Bernini ever said this, though I imagine somewhere he said something like this. But when we get together and tune in, it feels so much stronger to me. In astronomy, if they really want to look at a big picture of the sky, what they do is like here's the Earth, and um, they'll have one telescope here, and one, the Earth is round, of course. Where's something round? Here we go. So they'll have a telescope here, and a telescope there, and a telescope there, and a telescope there. They'll have this array of telescopes, which is able to take in a much wider signal. And I'm pretty sure that something very similar to that, it's like we're a group of antennas. We're a group of satellite dishes. And even though we're spread across great distances, there's something about us coming together that I believe amplifies all this, amplifies the reception, the width of the signal we can take in, maybe metaphorically. So I'm very grateful to each person here. So let's remember to hand over the thoughts that aren't true, that don't serve us. Let's remember to keep reaching for the divine connection. And let's remember to keep deepening our faith and trust in that which is almighty. Something hard for us to human beings to really understand. Something that's almighty. Bruno Gröning said, let's see if I can find it, that again I think is let us believe deep within our hearts that the final victory of good over evil will come about on this earth, regardless of the form in which Satan wants to rear himself up in all his cruelty. Very apropos for this time and place, this time in human history. So thank you all for joining in, because Bruno said that the good will prevail on this earth. And the more people who want the good, the sooner God can bring it about. So this desiring of the good, it may seem like, oh, we're just tuning in, like that's cool. And it is. And here's what Bruno Gröning said about this simple act we're doing. Human beings can also serve God by being convinced of the triumph of good in the world. So first of all, just having that conviction, the good will prevail, Bruno Gröning said, is an act of service. The more people there are who want the good, the sooner it can be brought about by God. So this simple act of wanting the good helps to, if I'm understanding this correctly, helps to speed up the time in which the good will prevail on this earth. So by wanting good in our own lives, in our own bodies, and not so much, and by good, I mean harmony. I'm not talking about us getting together and us all tuning in so that we all win the lottery, which is fine if that's something you want. But what I'm talking about is wanting divine, by good, is wanting the divine order. By doing that, according to Bruno Bruning, we're actually helping that to come about sooner in this world. So thank you. Thank you for your active service of tuning in, of wanting the good, and hopefully taking one step deeper into the conviction that the good will prevail on this earth. Thank you so much. Take care. So much love.